All right, beginning lesson 2 here in our financial literacy unit. Going to look at terms of a loan and how that affects the loan. So a little warm up to get started. It says determine the final cost of each item, not including sales tax. So number 1, Neville purchases a guitar priced at $78.44. He has a coupon for 20% off the price. How much does Neville pay for the guitar after using the coupon? So there's 2 ways we could do this. We could calculate 20%, 0.20 times the price, and then subtract that from the price of $78.44. Or probably the quicker way would be to calculate multiplying $78.44 by the amount left we would be paying. So in other words, if we're taking 20% off, we're actually paying 80% of the price. So if we multiply 78.44 by 0.80, that will give us the total we are going to pay, which is $62.75. And then for number 2, Greg is purchasing ink cartridges for his computer. Each ink cartridge costs $35.99 and comes with a $10 rebate. How much will Greg pay? So in this case, we're not taking a percentage off. We're just subtracting $10 from the total. So this one's a little more straightforward. We're just taking $35.99 and subtracting $10 from it. And we're going to end up with a price of $25.99. So there would be a price. A little easier to calculate when we're just taking off a dollar amount. All right, so next page, getting started, coming to terms with it all. What items are included in the terms of a loan? So the terms of the loan include all of the following. They include the amount borrowed, which we refer to as the principal. They include the interest rate. It includes the length of time, which we often will refer to as term length. And then the type of interest. So thinking back from our last lesson, the simple versus compound interest, the type of interest we'd be looking at. Okay, for number 2, how did the terms of loan you listed relate to the simple interest and compound interest formulas? Well, if we think back at those formulas, for simple interest, we had the formula that the interest was equal to the principal times the rate times the time. So P was our principal, that original amount. R was our rate. And then T was our time. And then for compound interest, if we look back at that formula, our total, which we used B to represent it, is equal to the principal, the original principal, P of O it's referred to, 1 plus the rate to an exponent of the time. So again, we have principal, the interest rate, and then T, our exponent, would be time. And the key on both of them, the rate is listed in decimal form. So something like 10%, we move the decimal 2 to the left, and we get 0.10. Okay, so for 3, if 2 customers go to the bank, the same bank to take a loan out for the same amount, same length of time, will they automatically be charged the same interest rate? And the answer there is no, they will not. Interest rate is personalized for each borrower based on credit history. So someone with better credit is going to get a better interest rate. All right, moving on to 2.1. Understand the impact that time and interest rates have on loan. Okay, it can help you make good financial decisions. Talked about in the previous lesson, we analyzed compound interest versus simple interest. How compound interest grows more rapidly if you're saving money The interest rate and length of the loan also determine the amount of money that you pay for a loan. So even the slightest difference in the terms of a loan can add up to a lot of money. So here we got Lyle and Tom are each buying houses just outside of Austin. Lyle has excellent credit, earning him the lowest possible interest rate. Tom has lower credit score. So remember, lower credit, for a credit score, the higher the number, the better. So if Tom has a lower credit score, that's not a good thing. It's enough to prevent him from qualifying for the best loan terms. So here we got our two loan terms to compare. So A wants us to describe the similarities and differences. So the things that are the same would be the amount of time and the same rate. Amount of the loan, not amount of time. So amount of the loan. So the amount of the loan and the time of the loan. I was looking at a different page prior. All right, so the things are the same again, since I confused you a little bit there. The amount of the loan and the time of the loan on both are the same. So list that as same. And then what's different is the rate which causes the monthly payment to be different. So those are different. So the rate and the monthly payments were different. All right, so B, how much more money will Tom pay per month? Well, Tom, if we subtract those two, we got $939.44 minus $835.48. If we subtract those, we're going to find out that he's going to pay an extra $103.96 per month. Okay, we want to know how much more money will Tom pay over the course of the loan. Well, if we want to know over the course of the loan, for C, we're looking at times 12 months over the course of a year. Again, I'm looking at D. So over the course of a year, 12 months in a year, $103.96 times 12 months in that year, and we're going to come out to be an extra $1,247.52 per year. And now, this question I was looking ahead to, over the 30 years of the course of the loan, if we multiply that number by 30, over the course of that loan, he's going to pay an extra $37,425.60. So quite a big increase for that small change between a 5% interest rate and a 4% interest rate. All right, moving on to the next page here. It says a good credit score can help you get the best possible interest rate. Remember, like I mentioned earlier, a good credit score is a higher number, bad credit score is a lower number. But interest rates can also vary depending on the lender, the length of the loan. Shopping around for the best loan terms can save you thousands of dollars. So here we're looking at an example where it says Maya's buying a new car. So she's considering two different options. You've got Longhorn Bank and Easy Cash, both the same amount. So if we're looking at A, similarities, let's zoom in here a little bit. So how are they similar? They got the same amount, and they also have the same interest rate, you might see. So same amount, same interest rate. So the amount and the interest rate. And then how are they different? If we're looking at the differences, change colors here to underline that. We got the years, and then that obviously is going to change our monthly payment. So say the time has changed and the payment. Okay, so how much more will Maya pay per month for the Longhorn Bank loan? So per month, we see the two monthly payments there. So if we just subtract 581.62 minus the 303.87, we're going to find a difference per month of $277.75. Okay, but keep in mind, that's for 3 years for the Longhorn Bank. She's going to continue paying 6 years, an extra 3 years for Easy Cash. So determine the total amount Maya will pay if she chooses the Longhorn Bank loan. So the Longhorn Bank loan is the one with the monthly payment of $581.62. And if we multiply that by 3 years and 12 months a year, we're going to find that her total she will pay at the end of that loan is $20,938.32. And then the total amount she would pay if she chose Easy Cash, we have a monthly payment of $303.87 times 6 years times 12 months a year, and we get a total of $21,878.64. So how much money is she going to save by choosing the loan with the shortest time? So the one with the shortest time, the Longhorn Bank loan, if we subtract the 21,878.64 minus 20,938.32, we're going to find a difference of $940.32. Almost $1,000 savings if she goes with the shorter term loan. So if you look at the difference there, you kind of see the trade-off and why the lender has a big advantage if you lengthen the term of the loan. Your short-term gain is that you're paying less per month. The long-term cost is you're going to end up paying more for the total amount you end up paying. Okay, so in turns, you simply want to try to get the least number of years possible that you can afford that monthly payment of. A lot of times people will extend the length of the loan in order to get a lower monthly payment. And it's really looking at the short-term mindset, especially when you get into things like homes. It's going to cost you a lot of money, which is the next page we're going to look at a home over a given period of time. Okay, so the next page, Gabby considers 2 different loan options. Now we're looking at buying a home, $135,000 loan, 4% on the lending shrub, 5% Texas Regional Bank, 15-year versus 30-year loan, and we can see the difference there in the monthly payment. So Gabby claims I'm going to save so much money with the Texas Regional Bank loan. Is she correct? And it's because of what we just talked about. No, because she will pay for an extra 15 years. Oh, not dollars. 15 years. So explain the advantages and disadvantages. So the only advantage of the longer year loan is a short-term savings in your monthly rate. So the only advantage of Texas Regional Bank, I'm going to abbreviate RB, Regional Bank, is a short-term monthly savings. But the big advantage of lending shrub is the long-term lower cost. It's going to be a lot lower number in the end. Okay, so if we look at 4, it says we have an automobile dealership that claims you can ride home their best car for only $299 per month. In order to make a good financial decision, what questions should you ask? Well, that's the thing about car dealerships. They're going to want to just show you the monthly payment and think that get you really excited about you can afford that. But we need to know a lot more than that. We need to know all the terms of the loan. So we need to know things like the price of the car, the interest rate, the length of the loan, and the type of interest. We need to be able to find out what's that long-term total cost as opposed to just knowing $299 per month. Because, I mean, someone could tell you, hey, it's only $299 per month, but yeah, are you paying that for 10 years? Or are you paying that for 2 years? So it can make a huge difference in your overall cost. All right, moving on to the next page on activity 2.2. We're going to talk about loan deferment. So it says education is an investment. The idea is that paying for school can pay dividends in the form of a good career with a high salary. Now, it's best to not have to borrow money for school, but if you have to in the situation you're in, that's fine. But it's best if you can somehow work through school, somehow paying your way. But like any investment, the terms of student loans dictate the monthly payments, total time of the loan, and the total amount of money that is paid. So the average college graduate can have over $20,000 in student loans between the time they graduate and the time they find a job. Many students choose loan deferment. So deferment is a period of time, usually up to 2 years, in which students can delay paying the principal and interest on their loan. A deferment can be beneficial, but understanding how compound interest affects the principal of a loan will help you make a wise financial decision. So with a deferment, you're not having to make payments, but interest is accruing on the amount that you owe. So if we look at this example here, Martin graduated $35,000 in student loans at a compound interest rate of 6%. He can defer payments for 2 years while looking for work. It says determine the new balance of the loan after 2 years. Well, again, our compound interest formula, original principal, 1 plus our rate to an exponent of time. So the original principal, 35,000, disappeared. Let me rewrite that. P of 0 times 1 plus our rate to an exponent of time. So 35,000 is our principal. 1 plus a rate, 6%, moving our decimal 2 to the left is 0.06 to an exponent of time, which they say we're deferring it for 2 years. So if we put that in the calculator, we're going to find that that new balance is $39,326. So by putting off starting his payments for 2 years, the balance of what he owes has gone up by $4,326, an increase for what he now owes on that loan. So that's a big, significant difference. If we move on to the next page, number 2, Lola has $51,500 in student loans at a 7% compound interest rate. She has the money to begin paying her loans, but considers spending money in her first 2 years of work on a car and furniture. So let's first determine the additional interest added to her loan after that 2-year deferment. So she has an initial principal of $51,500, a rate of 7%, so 1 plus 0.07, and she has a 2-year deferment also, so after 2 years. So if we simplify that, we are going to get $58,962.35. So that for her increased her loan amount. So increasement of $7,462.35. Again, very significant amount. So knowing that, B wants us to identify and explain the advantages and disadvantages of Lola's deferred payment versus making a payment immediately. So I'll let you put this in your own words, but to think of the advantages she would have, very few. It's really just one advantage, which is if she needs to buy things right away, she's putting off having to start those payments. So whatever that payment amount is per month, she wouldn't be having to pay that for the first 2 years. It can use it to buy other things like she mentioned, a car and furniture. The downside, the disadvantages, is like we just looked at with that total. By the time she starts making her payments, she's now had an increase of over $7,000 that she now has on the balance that she's eventually going to have to pay off. So depending on how badly she really needed that car and furniture, in the long run, you're looking at a long-term, really big disadvantage of how much that increase of that principal is going to go up, that she'll have to start paying 2 years into her loan.